Good day, Dr. Aspalela. We are Group 6, and I'm Leong Pui Ting, metric number 201841. Today, we will be presenting the positions of unlawful assembly under. Unlawful assembly is defined as the offense of assembling with a certain minimum number of members for the purpose of engaging in any unlawful conduct that threatens public safety, peace, or order. In the case of an offense under the Section 141 of Malaysian Penal Code, unlawful assembly is defined as an assembly of 5 or more persons if the common object of the assembly is that of stated in the paragraph A until paragraph E. The paragraph A until paragraph E is the list of common objects, which has been specifically designated under Section 141. The explanation to Section 141 of Penal Code provides that when it assembled, an assembly was not unlawful but may subsequently become an assembly. It satisfies the elements had laid down therein. This is because the elements which make it unlawful may not exist initially. In the list of common objects, we can know that the common object mentioned in paragraph A is to overthrow the government by criminal force, while under paragraph B, the purpose of an assembly, which is to resist the executions of any law or of any legal, also specified as one common object. The case of Mio Shafiza, Mio Muhammad Amin, and others versus PP can illustrate the common object in paragraph A and paragraph B. In this case, participants who engaged in an assembly was convicted of the offense of unlawful assembly because the intentions and objective of the assembly fall under the paragraph A and paragraph B, i.e., it was to oppose the implementation of a valid legislative process, which was the ceremony of the appointment of the Menteri Besar of Perak.
Good day, I'm Neoh Shu Shyan with the metric number 270340. Now, I will be explaining another 3 paragraphs in Section 141 of the Penal Code, which require a use or show of criminal force as the common object of the unlawful assembly. In Section 141, paragraph C, it provided that every member of an unlawful assembly to be deemed guilty of any offense committed in the prosecutions of common object if they involve in committing any mischief or criminal trespass or other offense. The word mischief and criminal trespass are defined in Section 425 and 441 of the Penal Codes, and neither necessarily involve the use of force or violence. Besides, as accordance with Section 141 paragraph D of the Penal Codes, where a criminal force is used by an assembly to deprive a person of enjoyment of the rights to weigh, or that the person is enjoying and in possession of, or to obtain possessions of any property or to impose such rights, the above acts are prohibited under paragraph D of Section 141 of the Malaysian Penal Codes. Lastly, Section 141 paragraph E of the Penal Codes provided that an assembly of 5 or more persons is designated an unlawful assembly if the common object of the persons composing that assembly is by means of criminal force or show of criminal force to compel any persons to do what he is not legally bound to do, or to omit to do what he is legally entitled to do. To put it simple, under these sections, an unlawful assembly refers to an assembly of 5 or more persons who have common object to use or shows the criminal force in compelling any persons to do any illegal act. In short, as stated earlier, an assembly of 5 or more persons is designated as an unlawful assembly if the common objects of the persons composing that assembly is any one of the following 5 objects declared illegal under Section 141 of the Penal Codes.
My name is Kai Yee, matrix number is 270907. I'm going to explain about the relevant provision, which is Section 142 and Section 149. Section 142 indicates that the issue of being a member of an unlawful assembly is stated that whoever being aware of facts which render any assembly an unlawful assembly intentionally joins the assembly or continues in it is said to be a member of an unlawful assembly. As mentioned before, the unlawful assembly is the offense of assembling with a certain minimum number of others or for the purpose of engaging in a riot or other unlawful conduct. Thus, In this section, it clearly shows that the person who will be liable according to these sections is the member of a lawful assembly who knows that the assembly has become unlawful but still intentionally continues assembly. Section 149 indicates that every member of an unlawful assembly to be deemed guilty of any offense committed in prosecution of common object. According to this section, if an offense is committed by any member of an unlawful assembly in prosecution of the common object of the assembly, or such as the members of the assembly knew to be likely to be committed in the prosecution of that object, every person who, at the time of committing of that offense, is a member of the same assembly is guilty of that offense. Therefore, by applying the case of Muhammad Haika bin Muhammad Khatib Sadli versus public prosecutor, in this case, the appellants they killed a member in their school during a fight. It was not sure who delivered that fatal blow. However, the court then held that it was a joint liability because they had the common object of causing grievous hurt that will likely lead to the death. Hence, it could be said that every person of unlawful assembly guilty of an offense committed in prosecution of a common object.
I am Loh Yee Shin with matrix number 271620. I'm representing about section 154 of the Penal Code. Section 154 of the Penal Code is basically touched on the person who has interest and control over the land, and that land has been held for unlawful assemblage. There are two groups of members will be held liable under these sections: the owner and the occupier of the land, and also the agent and managers. Owner of occupier of the land is referred as the person who has interest and also control over that land. Once that land has been held for unlawful assemblies, they will be held liable under these sections, because under the principle of the law, if a man has a land, they has the duty to prevent any unlawful activity being held on their lands. For agent and manager, people will always argue that they have no ownership of the land. How could they be held liable under these sections? However, agent and manager is the one who has been given the authority and control over that lands. So their responsibility is held similar as the owner. If they have no apparent reason to believe that unlawful assembly is going to be happen or is happened, fail to notify these situations to the nearby police officials, or fail to exercise their given authority, they will be also held liable under these sections 154 of the Penal Code.
Good day, everyone. My name is Chong Wen Ni, metric number 270799. Moving on to the punishment involved in an unlawful assembly. If a person is said to be a member of an unlawful assembly, the person shall be punished with imprisonment in maximum 6 months, or with fine, or with both prison and fine, as stated in section 143 of the Penal Code. Besides, whoever knowing that such unlawful assembly has been ordered to disperse, meaning to separate from the assembly and move off quickly in different directions, in a manner prescribed by law but still insists in joining or continues in an unlawful assembly, shall be also punished with imprisonment in maximum 2 years, or with fine, or with both prison and fine as mentioned in section 145 of the Penal Code. Moreover, the owner or the occupier of land on which an unlawful assembly is held shall also be punished, pursuant to section 154 of the Penal Code. Whenever any unlawful assembly takes place, the owner or the occupier of the land upon which such unlawful assembly is held, and any person having or claiming an interest in such land, shall also be punished with fine not more than 2,000 ringgits. In conclusion, if an assembly is held without first obtaining the state permit, then the assembly is deemed to be an unlawful assembly. It is notable that if you were to hold an assembly, make sure you obtain permit, or else the police do have powers to take action under the existing laws, such as the Penal Code. That's all from us. Thank you.